Hello and welcome to Queendom TV. Today I'm going to be talking about something very near and dear to my heart, and that is, where are the parents? Now, I'm a very observant person, I love to observe, I love to watch, I like to people watch, but on a deeper scale, I like to understand people's lives. And so I love YouTube, how it is now, and how you can really know about people's lives and what's going on in them, and not really from a nosy perspective as such, more in just terms of an overall world understanding kind of vibe. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because I feel like I need to speak on behalf of the children of the world right now, at least in the Western world specifically, because I'll give you an example of one of the things that kind of led me to start thinking a lot about this. You hear a lot of people commenting about millennials and be like, oh, the millennials are they're like this, and the millennials are weak, or the millennials are this, or da, da, da. Whatever they have to say about the millennials, my question is always, okay, where are the parents of those millennials, huh? Oh, it's the same people who are complaining about the millennials. You see what I'm saying? So when this is the problem. There's no one taking accountability for children. And no matter where you look, if you look in science, which I am a science lover, I studied chemistry, love maths, love physics, biology is not really my friend, but it's fine. Whether you look in science, whether you look biblically, wherever you look, children are born in such a way where they're in need of parenting. We don't need to even get into the nitty gritties of that right now. Children, the way they learn, and a lot of people say it's not by what you tell them, they learn by what they see. So children are literally watching everything around them, and they are taking in influences, and they are receiving that information. And because they're a child, they don't have the brain capacity to go, oh, that's right and that's wrong. Which is why people say with children, you have to lead by example, because they're going to copy you. And there's so many videos, even on social media and stuff, where people laugh about things children have said that they clearly don't understand. And that's because they literally just copy the things that they see. So my issue with this whole issue of children and where are the parents is there are so many issues surrounding children nowadays. Let's start with the mental health aspect, So many people are talking about, oh, why are the children of today? Why are they going through so much? Why are they depressed? Why are they this? Why are they that? But the reality is, a lot of parents are totally abdicating parental responsibility. So, for example, so many children out there are just all here, all over YouTube, all over social media, online, and because they've been born into this generation, they're a lot more prepared for this stuff. It's a lot easier for them to pick up, especially because, again, they're children, so they're in such a moldable stage. It's easy for them to learn to use technology, but then they become the biggest victims, in my opinion, of all the nasty stuff that's online. You've got all of these predatorial YouTubers and celebrities who have millions and millions of fans. You see this on TikTok as well. And meanwhile, millions of fans who are children, by the way, which again, to me is just really dodgy. Unless I'm literally doing a children's show for children, I don't want to be influencing children like that. Do you know what I mean? Because that to me is a massive responsibility. And I've worked with children in many different types of settings. I've done teaching, I've done tutoring, I've done babysitting, I've done clubs, I've done all sorts of things with children of all different types of ages. And it's a big responsibility as far as I'm concerned. And I can see how quickly children take to having certain influences in their life, and there's even studies done on just newborn babies who didn't have proper love from their mothers. You can see them. There's a documentary I saw on YouTube from 50 years ago, and they had these two babies on there, and the babies had come in and they hadn't had any motherly nurturing, and just from having cuddles and somebody talking to them, they went from both of them not being able to walk, both of them being pretty much unresponsive as children, which is kind of scary, even when they were being strapped down to these things, they weren't even fighting it off, which is really sad. And they went from that to just being really vibrant, to eating, to building personalities. And so I just wonder, as a nation, as a people, as a world, when did we stop taking accountability for children? When did parents stop parenting and think that was acceptable? So many things go down even in schools. I've been to school, obviously I've been to public schools, and I know what it's like, and it's the ghetto out here. It's the real ghetto. And people don't really look at that. Parents half the time don't know what's going on in school. I used to have to update, and I'm the kind of person who always is very informative if I can be. I used to update my mum about Mum, this is what's happening at school. There's so many things that go on at school that parents don't even know about, and because the schools don't tell them, and because the parents think, oh, you're at school now. And I feel like we're just moving closer and closer to a time where, you know, children basically run themselves, which was never meant to be the case. And that's why there's so much pressure on children today. Like, you even look at some of these shows that you watch, and I love watching these documentaries where they have, like, you know, they go to like a children's hospital, and then they'll have children there who like had to have their teeth taken out at 3 years old because their mum let them eat sweets because they said they wanted to eat sweets every morning. Who's the parent here? Who's the one who's supposed to know the child's not supposed to eat sweets? You. Who's the one who's supposed to stop the child from eating sweets? You. If when I was a child, my parents didn't make sure I ate a balanced diet and everything, then I'll probably be the same. I'll probably be out here as an adult. Like, and I meet adults and I think, wow, your parents failed you. Because if you're an adult and you're like, oh, I don't really like vegetables, that's an issue. Like, and this is just a small example. Obviously, you need to have a balanced diet. It's not just about vegetables. But you know what I mean? So again, no one's taking accountability for that. No one's taking accountability for the exposure online. Most of the time I've spoken to parents myself, they don't even know what's on online. They don't even know what their children do online. And I'm like, the internet is like the online world. It's like the equivalent of the world. It's like the equivalent of being released into the whole world, but just it's all digital. Do you know what I mean? And so no one's taking accountability for that. And then on the flip side, now when children are getting, and this is something that really upsets me a lot, right? When children get in trouble for like crimes and stuff, at like 12 years old, and like, oh, we're going to try you as an adult. Why? They're not an adult. They are not an adult. And when you look into the lives of these children, half the time you can see why they behave like this. And so my question is, how is a 12-year-old person supposed to understand responsibility? I feel like most adults in your 20s, I feel like, is when people really deep the level of responsibility that your actions have. Because it's like in school when people say to you, oh, you need to get your GCSEs and get your A-levels and go to uni. But it doesn't really mean anything at the time because you don't know what they're talking about. Because you're 15, 16 years old and all you know is school and your friends and whatever. And you kind of know about the world, you kind of done stuff. And you might be even more mature, but the way that you understand the way that the world works, the way that you understand consequence hasn't really come into play as much at that stage in your life, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. Like, this is why I feel like I'm saying, where are the parents? Where are the people who are supposed to step up and step in and be like, look, this is how you do it. First of all, start by leading by example. And I think this is where a lot of parents are actually selfish because they're too selfish, wanting to just do whatever they want to do without actually making the decision to do what's best for their children to mimic, if you know what I mean. And I saw this again. It was in one of these videos. I was watching one of these documentaries and there was a guy on there. The children were eating really badly. A woman came in to help them, you know, have healthy eating, learn to cook, what have you. And then the dad, when the mum wasn't there, was ordering takeaway because he wanted a takeaway. And I was like, for flip's sake, at least just go and buy yourself takeaway for lunch when you're at work and just eat it in the car. Like, don't do this around the children because, again, how are they now going to do anything different? And it's going to be a long time before they realize that these things weren't okay. And honestly, this is why I think a lot of millennials are actually going through a lot, or just younger generations, you know, even Gen Z. And I'm honestly the most worried for the youngest generation at this point, because there's a lot of like things that happen, and then you get to, when you are in adult stage, you do finally understand like your actions and stuff, and then you're like, what just happened? What was going on my whole life? Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, so I think it's just really disheartening to me how in all areas, and again, schools are failing children. So many incredibly talented children are not being adhered to just because they don't follow the linear little, you need to be academic, you need to this. And then people think they're dumb because they're not academic, not knowing that they're a genius in another area. So that's already, you know, you're already screwed in that department. Then you've got children being there for children, and children talk about stuff. So then between them, they're all discussing their all problems between them, which they're not really built, you know, for being able to help each other to that degree. Then they're exposed to all of these creeps and freaks online who are happy to do and say whatever to children. And then on top of it, after all of that, they have the responsibility of, if they do something, people are going to look at them. No one's even asking where were the parents, what were the parents doing? Because that's the question I'm always asking myself. What were the parents doing? So many of the things I do today, or I know today, are because of my parents. Things about my personality, things about the way that I talk, the way that I conduct myself, it's because of my parents, because they taught me certain things. Do you know what I mean? They taught me certain things, or I observed certain things from them. You know, and some of the things they might think are great, and some of the things they might even think are bad. But either way, that's normal. But I just think we really need to, as parents out there in the world, and I'm speaking of for those of us who are like, you know, I guess, going to be parents, or now young parents, or, you know, that kind of people, but also to the parents who are complaining, because I think for a lot of people in the younger generations, you know, especially if you're looking at the millennial kind of age range, A lot of people are taking responsibility now for like, okay, like we need to take accountability for these children, because at the end of the day, something's going to influence them. It's not like if you're not doing something as a parent and you think you're just doing whatever, then that's it. No, something's going to influence them, and we need to take this seriously, because there's so much pressure for children now. I mean, even when I just think about children getting caught up in all this social action stuff, why is the child thinking so deeply about their sexuality? Why is the child thinking so deeply about, climate change and all these things? And don't get me wrong, I think it's good for them to understand a lot of topics in a basic level as you would as a child, and there's many things that you understand at a basic level as a child, but we're just robbing childhood, and childhood is such an important part of, development for children, I feel like, especially because that's when you're imaginative, that's when you dream, that's when you experiment within yourself, and you like discover like, oh, I want to be an astronaut, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, I want to be an artist, that is the part of your life. And I think so many people, because they've been robbed of their childhood or in their childhood, today, that's why they're unhappy, because they don't know how to, they haven't been allowed to harness themselves, because that's what I feel like childhood is. It's the time when you get to learn yourself, know yourself, learn what you love, get really good examples of just life and how to live from those people around you, whilst you kind of learn yourself. And then when you become an adult, at that point, you should have all the tools of adulthood by that point that your parents would have helped you with. And I'm talking about the basic normal life tools of just stuff like how to cook, how to do your laundry, They should make sure that you can drive. They should make sure, stuff like that. But then I also mean life skills such as manners, life skills such as how to write a CV, how to apply for a job. And this is why a lot of children, again, people complain about young people, but they don't look at the root cause, because a lot of young people don't know how to do these things. A lot of young people don't know, how am I supposed to conduct myself in a job interview? How am I supposed to write my CV? And then they go to Google, because obviously Google's great, and thank God even for YouTube and stuff, at least people can even search these things up. But really, I think a lot of these things should have been covered by people's parents in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I really just wanted to talk about this because it's really upsetting to me. And I'm just sick and tired of people, especially people who have children, complaining about young people. If you have a complaint, then do something. Especially if you're a grown adult, start. If you're upset that none of the young men in your area are getting jobs, you start a job agency. You start helping them write CVs. You start training them, because for all you know, they don't have those tools. They don't have those tools. If you have something else to complain about, if you're complaining about what's online, you learn what's online. You start something online. You be online. Stop just talking and abdicating your role and then complaining to the poor children who already have so much more to deal with. I mean, even children nowadays with COVID and everything, I can't even imagine what it's like to go to like secondary school like right now during COVID and do GCSEs or be doing SATs or be at uni. I feel so sorry for the students of today. So they've got that on top of it and going through a pandemic, which I haven't been through. Majority of people I feel like who are alive right now have not lived in a pandemic like this before. On top of that, they have all the pressures of technology and the fact that now, and people don't talk about the fact that, yeah, now, because you can contact people every 3 seconds, that again is something else that's hard for people's mental health, because at least back in the day, people would send each other a letter. It might take a little while to get there. Now it's like, oh, slow replies, long replies. Everything is so in your face. Everything is so there. It's a really hard world to live in, and now more than ever, children need their parents to take accountability for them, not start just complaining, and this is even why I do some of the stuff I do, because I'm like, look, I can complain about stuff out there in the world, or I can be the change. And that's what they always say, all these cringy sayings like, be the change you want to see in the world and all that. Be the change you want to see. Understand that children are children. Children are children. No matter how much responsibility you can give a child, children are fully capable, because they're still fully capable of doing whatever they're going to do as an adult, because that's all going to be within them as a person. But everybody in their stages of life is supposed to be able to go through what they need to go through. And at the end of the day, a child is a child. If you spend time around a child, no matter how intelligent they are still a child. You will see that. And it's not good to try and make children grow up. It's not good to try and, and force them to do adult things, or just because they can, then they do. No, that is not acceptable whatsoever. People need to take accountability. People need to actually parent their children. And if you're not prepared to parent your children, don't have children. Like, it's just that simple, because it's so sad, and I feel so worried for this generation of children who are probably feeling so uncared about, especially because half the time, and I mean, people say comments like this to me. So I'm only thinking, like, oh, what people your age, what they're going through, like, okay, you don't get it, whatever, who cares? But the fact is, For me, okay, I can move on from it. When you're talking to children, that could crush them. And then we talk about mental health as if it's something that we actually care about. But we don't care about it, because if we did, people would take these things seriously. And even with mental health, how about stop always just throwing your children away to therapies and stuff, which I think therapy is good, by the way. I think therapy is really important, and I think you should utilize therapy, by the way. But I think, again, it's another thing that parents use to just say, oh, well, actually, I'm not going to do my job as a parent. No. That's all the more reason. Give your child therapy, but then you spend the time. Take time off work. And again, this is why I hate this. This is why I hate this. Sorry, I don't even know why I just did that. This is why I hate this day and age, because so many things are like, oh, but I've got to go to work. What is more important at the end of the day? What is more important? Because to me, if I really love my child, I would rather risk my job, knowing that I could be there for my child, and probably find another job. Like if you're living in the Western world, yeah, and you've had a job before, it's not going to be hard for you to get a job. It really isn't. And especially if you're from the older generations, because you've had so much experience in life and stuff, it's really not going to be hard for you to get a job. Maybe just not a job you like, but then again, comes back to selfishness. You're putting yourself first. There's so many signs out there that children just need parents, and they're finding people to lead them online. This is why all of these creepy people on YouTube and around the world are getting all the children on board, because the children are looking for somebody to look up to, somebody to act like, somebody to inspire them, and you're just leaving them out there, and then you want to be the ones having an issue when certain things pop up. But it's like, but where were you when that was happening? What were you doing? You weren't there. You weren't parenting. So anyway, I'm going to close my rant here about where are the parents, and just say that I think at this point it's just really important, for people to really think about taking accountability for children, because at the end of the day, they're children. If you wouldn't just leave a child to fend for itself on its own, then why do we basically do the essentially the same thing? But as long as they're in my house and as long as I'm feeding them meals, then it's fine. No, it doesn't really work like that. And I think we need to start taking accountability, because I don't even know how these poor children are going to turn out. They're getting so much pressure in some ways to be adults, but then they're getting discredited. And that's the other thing. Sorry, I'm going to add this at the end. And this is the annoying thing about this as well. You put all the pressure on children, so you can go to prison at 12. You usually need to decide this. You need to be responsible for A, B, C, D, L, M, N, O, P, right? But then on the flip side, when it suits you, oh, but you're just a child. Oh, how can you be depressed? Like with the Demi Lovato thing and her, talking about how she was, she went through something very traumatic, as a child when she was filming I think it was Camp Rock, and she was 16, and somebody had said to her something about like, oh, what do you know about like relationships, or what do you know about something at 16? And again, these are the type of toxic phrases that are not helpful, because it's the same people who are happy to put all the pressure on children are the same people who then want to discredit them on the other side, and then the children are just left there in the middle, like sometimes being treated like way older than they are, and then other times being treated like younger than they are, or being discredited just for their age. And then it's like, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think they were all going to turn out and just be happy, well-functioning adults? Think about that. Think about that one. Anyway, thank you for watching my video, and please subscribe if you enjoyed it. Please like, please comment, and let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about, or what you think, or how you feel about parenting and children. I just think it's really important. We need to stand up for the children, guys. Like, they're children. What else are they going to do? You know what I mean? And it really hurts my heart, honestly. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you next time.